Deep in the middle of the crazy format that we've had developing here, MathMech decided that it wanted to shake up, well, a regional with a double header top. You guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. We're going to be looking at Carl Ancho Stores WCQ out of Lima, Peru here. And your top 16 is pretty interesting. I'm not going to lie to you. You had 3 Kashtira, which was your most represented deck in the top 16. I mean, we're no strangers to that. We also had 2 MathMech and 2 Purely. So your one-offs here where things get interesting. You had Scareclaw, Rescue Ace, Rika Sun Avalon, Traptrix, Labyrinth, Sword Soul, Flauner, Hero, and Manadeum. I hope you process that all, or you have the pie chart in front of you to see that. But when you look at this, I mean, Rogue is doing fantastic out here. Manadeum's a little bit hit or miss some days, I mean, but so is Hero. I mean, these decks are all good enough to make it into the top 16 of an event and grind things out. And I think a lot of people kind of take that for granted when they look at the metagame. They're like, oh, you know, it's not, I can't top with this. And it's like, just work a little bit harder. You can do it. Now, top 8 here is where we get into the exciting stuff. Both of your MathMech duelists were actually in the top 8 of this regional. I am extremely happy to see the pressure that MathMech is kind of bringing back to the table here. I think, once again, this deck is definitely underestimated right now. Or, you know, maybe buy steals just weren't present. Buy steals kind of look like they're on the wayside right now. Do keep in mind, I mean, obviously Branded is still playing them, and you're still seeing some sort of representation out of Dragon Link with them. But those 2 decks weren't really too present in the top cut of this event. Like, this is a different snapshot of things that we're kind of used to seeing here. Now, we did have Scareclaw, which is technically classified as a Scareclaw Kashtira deck. You've definitely got some lines of play with that deck that are going to seem pretty interesting. Our Rescue Ace duelist, Rika Sun Avalon, and Purely kind of bring up the rest of the rear here. I'm not surprised by any of this. This is interesting. Let's pass on over to deck list. So winning our event here was actually Purely, and you do see once again that the TCG loves one Purely leap. They're not trying to dedicate any more to this. I mean, the OCG needs to be able to draw as many cards as they can, but we can't make, you know, the big rank up targets that the TCG really wants at the end of the day. You also see that we have a pretty decent splash in here of hand traps. I mean, we have the Space Rocks, we have the Book of Moons to make sure that we can book anything that the opponent's going to be, you know, setting up as a troublesome target. Outside of that, I don't see anything else too crazy about this. Good stuff. Our second place list here is MathMech. Wow, they were all the way up here in second place. So we are playing the Sakitama Aratama package. We've talked about how good that this package is. The ability to set up the additional extensions, you know, climb up through the MathMech, exceed monsters, and then pressure the opponent out of the game with those power cards. And of course, I mean, the Archfiend Eccentric as the bridge target for the deck. I mean, if you happen to see it, it's a very good spell and trap pop at the end of the day. Next up here, our third place list is our Scareclaw Kashtira deck. And I mean, the only real thing that makes this Kashtira is, I mean, you're playing 2 copies of the Scareclaw Kashtira with a triple Fenrir, but I mean, that's pretty much built into the deck as it is. I mean, if you're stopping by the Arise Heart, you're just kind of cleaning up the free value that you already had generated for you anyway. I mean, the biggest thing that's going to be about this deck is obviously the Scareclaw Link 3. That card is actually insane, and people still, at this point in time, don't know how to play around it. I don't get it. And then, of course, Rescue Ace back here at the 4th place. Main decking Triple Dimension Shifter. See that somebody else in the room here has gotten fed up with the meta to the point that we are aggressively pressuring the opponent now with the shifters and things to make sure that we can play the game. And of course, the Pyrace map in here as well. It's not really something that I've seen a lot of people giving the time of day to, but the fact that you can splash this in and get a decent amount of value off of it, I mean, aka the Hydrant, is good. 5th place is our Rika Sun Avalon, sporting off 41 big ones in the main deck. We are playing the books for the defensive options, and of course the evenly matched here. I mean, you do need to make sure that you do have defensive options in the deck. Like, I can't stress that enough. If your opponent's able to set up, or, you know, you don't have a recovery, Obviously, this deck loses, especially with, how you don't have room in the extra for real recovery plays. Like, if you get board broken, it's kind of dumb. Next up here is our Kashtira deck. Hey, look, triple Lance and triple Book of Moon and triple Book of Eclipse. They did not want to lose to any of the craziness that's kind of lurking around in the format out here. I mean, I think that's good. The more defensive options that you can kind of have present in a deck to make sure that you can capitalize and do your thing, I think is good. I also see that we are citing the Nightmare Corruptor Iblis down here as well, so that's actually kind of nice to see that Nightmare Corruptor Iblis still doing things. And of course, our other Kashtira deck. Yes, I'm glad to see that both Kashtira duels were back here like 6 to 7. They weren't really sitting at like the top of the ladder here. This build is also main decking a Pankratops. What in the world is going on with that? And of course, I mean, we're main decking the Feather Duster. We also have lances and books in the main deck here as well. So no Book of Eclipses at all of this. I guess they opted to just not need them, which, I mean, it does work out. Really just comes down to deck building and what you're afraid of. And our 8th place duelist here was our next Mathmech deck. So Mathmech locking down 2nd and 8th place, which is phenomenal. Now, of course, you do see the Firewall package in here kind of being the hard carry for this, which is not all that bad. I mean, I love the value that you do get off of the Firewall extensions. Of course, the cool Code Talker Link one. We're citing the Archfiend for the Bridge Gap, which is kind of an interesting choice, but if you do need to see it, depending on the matchup, you do have it. Of course, 9th place here is another Kashtira deck. Man, Kashtira knocking out the back half of the board here. I see that we are main decking double Lance again. Man, they just are not going without Lance. The fact that Book of Moon has entered into the format here has forced this deck to make some drastic changes. Maybe not in the way that, they necessarily want to, but it's enough that you've got these duelists second guessing out here on their choices to make sure that they can play the game. 10th place out here is Trap Tricks, actually main decking 2 copies of the Spirit Additional Normal Summon here. The whole big thing of this is to make sure that, hey, I can get another level 4 on the field, so I can go ahead and make an Exceed monster, or, start doing these Trap Tricks plays. I mean, hey, as long as you can get a revive off of, the Sarah with this, you can set up a Rafflesia on the defense, and, I mean, that's kind of looking like a pretty good line of play at the end of the day. So, interesting inclusion there. Our next list here is another Purely deck. See that we are on triple Space Rock here. We also have some Book of Moons for defensive options. Once again, Book of Moon doing its thing. We're also side decking double Book of Eclipse here. I guess that the format has kind of been bad enough that they were kind of forced to have additional books here to make sure that they can go ahead and set on up here. And of course, we have some board breakers in here as well. And of course, you gotta love the hand trap ratios in this deck as well. Yep, I don't see anything else too weird here. Next up, we have our Labyrinth Duelist all the way back here at 12th place. And you do see double Super Poly in the main deck. So anything that the opponent's going to do that you're going to look at and be like, it's a little bit of an issue. I can't really handle that. Shouldn't be a problem. You should be able to clean things up, get the job done, and honestly, it should just be that. Outside of that, I mean, Destructive Druid Mechanic, all the trap lineup here, pretty standard. We've seen the Eradicator being main decked for all format. Looks pretty standard to me. Next up here is our Sword Soul Duelist. Wow, they really were back here at the end of the block. We are playing 1 copy of the Quick Play, which is kind of sad because I like that card. Only 1 copy of the Blackout as well. This deck has definitely been stripped down to be the most consistent that it can actually be at the end of the day. As much as we love this deck, and as much as, we want this deck to continue to be a consistent monster, you have to strip away some of the things that can make your matchups a little bit better for the consistency. Next up is Flaunderies in 14th place, High Dimension Shifter. We're also main decking double Dark Roller and only 1 copy of Pot of Extravagance. So you're playing triple Prosperity, the 1 Extravagance, with the triple copies of Duality for filtering. Okay, I also see that we are playing Phantasme down here as well. That's a little bit interesting of some tech choices kind of being brought to the table here, but okay. Maybe this is the way to consider playing the deck. 15th place up here is our Hero deck, and of course you do see the Neos package in here with the Infernal Divisor. This has become a pretty common strategy at this point in time to, make sure you can do the favorite contact, defensive play, spot removal, anything that the opponent might be setting up that you might consider dangerous. And of course, we are on double book here as well, so we can slam down as much defensive power as we actually can. But outside of that, I mean, this deck, I like this. This list is pretty gosh darn good. And we also have some Mana Diem here as well. This deck has struggled so much this format. Like, it loses to the most random, fragile board states. And it really is saying something here, because I love this deck. I think this deck is really cool. But, man, it just has some garbage times. So, what do you guys think about the Carlancho Store Regional? Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.